Does anyone want to get us started?
Hi. It's always a good way to get things started, eh? Hello. I've been sober for 13 years. But I still can't give anyone a good reason to quit drinking. I mean, I give you reasons, there are lots of reasons, but they don't matter. I don't think they matter, because at the end of the day, and at the end of every goddamn day, even 13 years later, you're either done or you're not. I said that to someone the other day, and they asked me, well, how do you know when you're done? And of course, I can't answer that question for anybody. For me, it was kind of mysterious and also really clear and definite. There's a lot of shit in my life I don't remember. I sure still remember the last time I had a drink. It was here in town. I was driving in the suburbs, one of those annoying suburban streets that connects to all the other streets but leads you nowhere. Totally wasted. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I have this idea, if you can call it that, that I'm going to go to my ex-wife's house, where she's living with her husband and his son and our daughter, and that's as far as the idea goes, right? I'm going to go there, and then, I have no clue, no plan, but what have I got to lose? I remember thinking that, what have I got to lose? Not knowing, that I was about to get the answer to that question. So I'm driving, and I'm lost. No idea where I am, but I get on what feels like a nice, long, straight street. And up ahead in the middle of the road, I see a box. Not too big, not too small. Just what strikes me in that moment as this really perfect box. And immediately my thought, if you can call it that, is I want to run over this box. And as soon as that's in my head, I'm fucking fixated, because that's how I am. It's how I can get. All of a sudden, I need, to crush the absolute shit out of this box, right? So I speed up. I'm driving toward it. I'm about to hit it, and then I swerve. Not meaning to. It was more like a reflex. And I swerve around the box, stop maybe 5 meters in front of it. And so what do? I put the car into reverse because I'm still fixated on the box, right? And so I look at my back window, and I see a kid get out of the box. Maybe 10 years old. This boy gets out of the box, and he's laughing his little head off. Like he just pulled the prank of the century, skips past my car, stands in front of me, and I'm just looking at him like, do you have any idea what we just got away with? And now he's looking at me too, like maybe he's cluing in to what almost just fucking happened. And then I see him slowly raise his hand, and he gives me the finger. This fucking 10-year-old kid starts laughing again. He runs away. I put the box in my car and got the hell out of there. I always had a thing for living hard, and I know I got away with wayward hearts, and I won't let my suffering and sin be taken by nobody's savior do-good. Now I'm coming last, but I'm heading to first. One of the meek who'll inherit the earth. You only slow me down, trying to tell me what I'm worth. I'm coming last, head under first. a wall, waiting for desire to get set off by fall. No royal horses or man ever know the shape I'm in, ever know the shape I'm in. Oh, I never got the hang of living right. I know if it's bad for me, I gotta try it. I heard when I was a little girl, find what you love and do it well. I said okay, made my way from the smoke into the fire. Now I'm coming last, but I'm heading to first. One of the meek who'll inherit the earth. And you only slow me down, trying to tell me what I'm worth. I'm coming last, head under fire. Oh, I live my life on a wall, waiting for desire to get set off by fall. No royal horses or man ever know the shape I'm in, ever know the shape I'm in. I'm coming last, but I'm heading to first. Coming in last, heading to first. Coming in last, heading to first. Coming in last. I got to go home and tell Nancy that I lost our rent money in a poker game. Rent's due tomorrow. I could probably push it a couple of days, but ever since the we got to get our shit together, love isn't going to be enough conversation, she's been totally obsessed, totally on top of the money. It's just a shitty time, right? You know, it was a shitty night, because it was a shitty week, because it was a shitty 6 months. So right off the bat, like an idiot, I'm trying to balance out 6 months worth of shitty nights with one good night. One hand, one moment that doesn't take more than it goddamn gives. And that's something you can smell on a person as soon as they sit down at the table, right? Which is why a person who's desperate like that shouldn't be sitting down. They should be walking away from the table, whatever. I'm sitting there and I'm busting. Right? It's like I've never been more ready in my life to play a hand. But then every hand I get, I can't play it. You know, I'm out. And then finally I get a hand. So I play it. Of course I play it. And this one guy is raising me. And raising. So finally it's just him and me. And I've been calling him because I'm sure he's bluffing. And I'm sure he knows that I got a good hand because it's the only hand I really played all night. So I'm thinking like he's gonna let it go. Right, he's gonna let it go. But then no, raise, call. And then all in. So I folded the fucking hands. Never found out what the guy had. Real quiet player, didn't talk strategy, didn't make himself vulnerable, but he knew I was vulnerable. And he sure as hell knew that. He knew I wanted it. He knew I was having a bad night, and that made me want it even more. He knew I would stay in for too long because I wanted it, but that I'd probably fold even if I did have a good hand because my confidence was fucked. He knew all that, and he probably said to himself early in the night, oh, this guy's chasing it. So I'm going to give him something to chase. I'm in that mood. It's like there's no amount of knowing the consequences that can rein in the part of me that's trying to get what it wants, you know? Like on a night like tonight, if I was outside having a smoke and some fucking voice came out of the sky and was like, "This is God speaking. That's the puff that's going to give you cancer." You know, I'd probably keep smoking the smoke, you know? And if the same voice was like, "Get your tail out, buddy. Tonight's a losing night," I'd probably decide to keep playing the game. I wouldn't totally ignore the voice, but in the end, I'd want to prove it wrong. And so I'm not going to say I didn't screw up. I know I'm the asshole in this situation. But it's not just because I blew the money. The reason I'm an asshole is because of all the things I could be worried about right now. The thing I'm worrying about the most is Nancy saying to me, "No more cards." And realizing that, I honestly wonder what the hell's wrong with me. Because it's not like I'm taking some kind of a necessary risk for us. Like, we're doing not great, but we're doing just fine. And the truth of it is I don't even think it's the pot that I was chasing. And man, that is the thing I just can't get my head around, because if you're not chasing the pot, then man, you got to ask yourself, what the hell is it that you're chasing? I never wanted any more than any man who came before. Your life was good and fine and time was empty, till I let her by mistake one day. From a shiny town not far away came soft with love and lipstick and perfume. It said, "I know the lonesome glow of country moons and slow rising suns that make a dream longer." It said, "I never see the stars, and all the wishing in my heart has gone away, except one for you, my love." I always liked my company, and in loneliness felt truly free of other people's gazes in the mirror, till a story came into my head of another life I could have led, that put a chase for change inside my heart. I left behind the lonesome glow of country moons and slow rising suns that make a dream longer. And now I never see the stars, and all the wishing in my heart has gone away, except the one for you, my love. my love, my love. Night, setting lights and starless night, and the shadow of another long night, setting lights and starless night. Let me there and let me on. Night, setting lights and starless nights, and the shadow of another long night, setting lights and starless nights. Let me there and let me I've been alone for about a year. It's been 11 months since it happened. I was thinking before I came here tonight, I have this thing where I look at people and I imagine them as kids, you know, like smiling on picture day, and like, you know, when you were a kid, is this how you thought you'd turn out? And I was thinking before I came here tonight, how when I was a kid, you know, no one ever asked me, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I actually don't know what the answer to that question would have been, but it would not have been a woman who kills her husband. Well, I'd kind of love to see a teacher's face if a kid said that. And it's very hard to be that woman, but if you really put your mind to it. Sorry. Yeah, I've been dreaming about it a lot. The dreams, you know, come and go, but it's always like the same day, the same room. And I was thinking about that before I came tonight. How before it happened, the last time my husband, I don't know what to call him. The last time we were locked in a room together was on our honeymoon. Niagara Falls, Stagecoach Motel. I can still see the sign with the overlapping hearts. One says air conditioning and color TV, and then the big one in the middle is like whirlpool tubs. And it was so perfect. And one thought I have, you know, like over and over and over and over, is how we were there, and now I'm here. And whatever. You know, there's a lot of that in life, right? One day you're, you know, sitting on your porch, drinking a beer, watching the sunset, and next thing you know, you're out in your ass with no place to go, and it feels so sudden. But it's not sudden. Nothing happens suddenly. Sorry, am I making sense? I said to my therapist, or a therapist, she's not my therapist. I don't really know who the hell she is, but I have to talk to her. And I said, you know, that I probably never liked any of the men I ever loved. And I don't like where she tried to take that. You know, because she tried to tell me that it wasn't love. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, so angry. Like, of course I loved him. And, you know, I am proud to have been able to love him. You know, this woman, I swear to God, she wants me to look back on my life and feel bad about every relationship I ever had, but I don't. You know, I do not regret a single one of my cowboys at the bar who took me by the hand and said I was beautiful and told me about, you know, deals they'd done and money they'd made and what they'd do if they were 20 again, and how they feel like they were born at the wrong time and nobody understands them. But I understood them. And, you know, I'm not good at many things, but I've always been good at understanding and loving. But then on the other hand, you know, I'm also a woman who kills her husband. And it is hard to be that woman. Not because of the part of me that feels bad, but because of the part of me that doesn't. You feel what others feel. You don't mind bending to their will. On occasion, when you get the sense, it's been too long since they had a say. And you want the same from me. Mind and body synchrony. But I've never been like you. The only time I follow is when I'm following through. You knew when you met me. I'm a hostage taker, waving my mood around. Yeah, when I'm feeling nobody move, or I'm gonna put you down. I'm a hostage taker, waving my mood around. If you're waiting for me to surrender, then I'm gonna let you down. You think I'm cruel for a loving hand to mine? Before a minute, you know my way. You're a fool, you're still looking for my heart. Yeah, I showed it to you at the start. I'm a hostage taker, waving my mood around. nobody move, or I'm gonna put you down. I'm a hostage taker, waving my boot around. If you're waiting for me to surrender, then I'm gonna let you down. An existential dread biscuit with a fruit center of hope is how I would describe the journey of trying to become a mom in my 40s. We've actually been trying, my husband Trev and I, we've been trying since I was in my 30s. I don't know exactly how long it's been. I don't take my morning temperature anymore. I don't piss on luteinizing hormone sticks. I don't do any of that shit anymore. In fact, I'm trying this thing right now where I'm taking a break from thinking about it. Yeah, after years of hormones and procedures and losing a baby halfway through the pregnancy, I'm in a new era where I just don't think about it. While secretly thinking about it all the time. It's kind of one of those like, don't tell myself, self situations. Yeah, I don't know if this whole meeting thing is for me. Like, I love the idea, and I love talking to people, but I'm also kind of like a closed, defensive, unsupportable prick who, in this situation, like, just kind of wants to be like an armadillo-skinned stand-up comedian who like gets a few yucks, but like doesn't actually participate in what's supposed to be going on, which is like sharing authentically and being vulnerable. And but I'm here, and I've been told that's a meaningful first step. Yeah, I just never thought I would be this woman. Like for a while I didn't even want kids. And then, I met Trev, and next thing you know, I'm in my late 30s trying to have a kid. And I thought, if I'm being embarrassingly honest with you, I thought I'd get pregnant right away. Not at the logical level. Like at the logical level, I know and I knew that if you're a woman over 35, from a reproductive standpoint, you're geriatric. That's the term they use. These scientists with like the evil, woman-hating sense of humor, they call you geriatric at the age of 35, right? So now as a woman in my 40s, you can basically imagine like a sign in the shop window of my ovaries that says going out of business, right? Like at the logical level, yeah, of course I knew, but at the emotional level, at the fucking fruit center of hope level, I thought it would just happen. And I'm not like a total fucking moron for thinking that way. Like probably all of us, I was raised to believe that getting pregnant was dangerously easy, right? Like family life class, St. Michael's Elementary School, Mrs. O'Brien standing in front of the green chalkboard, conception can occur within 6 feet of an erection. Like we were raised with a certain idea of what having a baby is like. And as ridiculous as it seems, it is precious. It is ingrained. And I don't think it's unlearnable, because I am still hanging on to that idea even though everything I have experienced while trying to have a baby has taken me further away from it. But we're still trying. We just scheduled a doctor's appointment, which I'm dreading because it's going to be the first time back in that office since the loss, which wasn't sudden. You know, there was probably about a month where the baby was with me, and I knew he was slipping away. And while all that was happening maybe a year ago, I went to a poetry reading. And I found out that a couple of the women I know who were there were pregnant. And we were all like 13, 14 weeks along. But I wasn't saying anything, of course, because, you know. But I said all the right things, you know. Congratulations, your beautiful news. While privately having that like shameful feeling of being like wounded by their joy. So afterward, I bawled my eyes out, and I went to the diner down the street and got a chocolate milkshake, and it had one of those biodegradable straws. So like 5 minutes into walking home, still crying, the straw was all soggy, so I like literally couldn't sip the milkshake, and then I was crying about that. And then, like kind of a miracle, Trev pulls up to where I'm walking, and he says out the window, "Hey, can I give you a lift?" Yeah, he's really good at being up when I'm down. Like he'll come into our bedroom when I've been lying in there by myself for way too long and just engage me in some really specific conversation. Usually there's a theme. Right now it's Disney. Like the other day, just peeked his head in the door and was like, "Hey, do you think Aladdin actually became a prince? Or did he merely attain the appearance of becoming a prince?" And it works. Like next thing you know, we're not sad anymore. We're on a Disney subreddit. Realizing, by the way, he's not the only one asking these questions. Oh my God, Trev. I feel like at this stage, he is more hopeful than I am, which sometimes feels like a secret I'm keeping from him. Although he knows that like it's been a really different experience for me that has changed how I think about trying, you know, trying of any kind, really, which I used to think was about control. You know, take control of your life, get control of the situation, you know, but now, kind of terrifyingly, I think trying is about surrender. She followed a feeling to a high and mighty place, one where all your gravity becomes passing grace, one that lures you with the promise of an overarching answer, one where beauty takes the hand of every lonely dancer. It wasn't long before she knew she was traveling in the wrong direction, following the world's applause for deeds of self-deception, sealing off her senses to light and warmth and praise, trying to pour a dam in water over the gracious flame. Of misery's faint glimmer in the darkest of minds, as an amber glows and ashes fall, the sun decides to rise. A voice appears, the one you hear, the unknown soldier who you left behind, calling out from where you left the day old ashes, still trying to warm your mind. She draws the curtain around the room she's in to see herself in total darkness and find her only friend, one that helps her fall asleep, one that helps her dream, one that helps her find her way to the truth so deep. Misery's faint glimmer in the darkest of minds, as an amber glows and ashes fall, the sun decides to rise. A voice appears, the one you hear, the unknown soldier who you left behind, calling out from where you left the day old ashes, still trying to warm your mind. Misery's faint glimmer, the darkest of minds, amber glows in ashes while the sun decides to rise. Misery's faint glimmer, the darkest of minds, amber glows in ashes while the sun decides to rise. Thank you.
Is this on? Oh, yeah. Oh, I can hear it. There we are. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And thank you to our wonderful performers. We are up here on our Black Islands here. Yes, that was terrific. Yes. There you go. Well, thank you to Sandra DeSalvo, to Sarah Legault, and to the entire team at TAP for inviting me back to host Unscripted, the music edition. This is the first time I've done the music one. I've done the plays and the poets, but I've now been unleashed on music. So I feel very honored to be with both of these wonderful performers tonight. The series, has everybody been to an Unscripted before? Raise of hand. Whoa, we have a lot of first timers here. This is fantastic. Really, really good. Okay, the series highlights creativity and collaboration in the city, and I have to say the vision that Sandra and Sarah bring to include people not only from London, but from beyond as well, and a nice creative mix. So If this is your first time, I'm sure it won't be your last time after today to come back and see more. I'm also really honored to be in conversation with Misha Bower and Peter Hurst for part 2 of our evening after such a unique and powerful performance. Before I start off, I should note, this was a note that Sandra offered, that there's some merch here. We have some merch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have, I think I saw, I did a little peek. I think there's some Bruce Peninsula.
Yeah, I brought my my solo record, and then I brought the last record I did with Bruce Peninsula, and then I brought a few copies of my book from 11 years ago that I still have copies of because it's in incredible demand. So
Music for uninvited guests. Is it 11 years ago? Wow.
yeah, I know.
Okay. I'm gonna ask questions with both of them, but at some point I'm gonna turn to all of you for your thoughts, questions, cogitations, reflections. So, and I think we have this fantastic old-timey mic here, which we're gonna use at the center of the room, and Sandra's gonna be our mic holder. So at some point, if you do have a question, make yourself aware to me, and I will fit you in and bring you into the conversation as it comes along. So why don't we start and jump right into, I thought we'd start with creative process because there's so much creativity in the show today. Misha, this particular performance, Meetings, brings together your background as a writer and a musician, placing dramatic monologues side by side with music and songwriting to produce a multimedia, multi-arts experience. How did you arrive at this unique marriage of monologue and music?
Well, a version of this show was initially staged a couple years ago when the Grand Theatre did its reopening festival. So Richard Gracious was one of the main acts, and he approached me about being the third act of his show. And just gave me like total free rein. He's like, whatever you want. I'm like, any parameters at all? He's like, no, whatever. And so that just kind of gave rise to this show. I think it was the fact that it was set in a theater kind of brought me back to what I would call my roots as a writer. Like my initial, the first writing I ever did was like performance writing. It was like 1-act plays in high school. And I remember doing like this weird one-woman show when Bruce Peninsula was touring Sappy Fest, like into the Blue Moon Motel, and I like had a wig and makeup and was like in the Vogue Theater. And it was just sort of how I got interested in storytelling. And so I think somewhere in my brain, Richard's invitation just kind of made me think, well, no, it's got to be a theatrical thing. And so I ended up just working on these monologues, and even the process was so different from how I write anything else, because I was like writing them out loud. So like, just walking down the street, just like da 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 da. Like I would try to write it, longhand or on the computer, and I was like, no, this is a thing that's like embodied and written aloud. This is a theatrical monologue. And then I just realized that the themes that were emerging with the monologues were very complementary to a lot of the songs I'd written, and thought, oh, that could be cool to kind of have to connect the two, to have like a monologue and then like a loosely thematically connected song could kind of, break it up for the audience a bit. It's like you have a monologue and then it's just this different kind of characterization and story going back and forth. So. And then, we added a monologue to this show. I memorized the monologues for this show. I didn't have a piece of paper, which was terrifying. You're welcome. I was like, no safety net, here I go. And so that also felt like pushing it even more into theater. Because with Richard's show, I was like, well, I'm a writer. I'm not an actor. I can have a prompt. I can have a piece of paper. I'm just a performing writer. And now I was like, no, you're acting now.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Right. So these were monologues that you wrote during the pandemic, because your album, Trying to Have It All, which is the source of the music, was released just before the pandemic.
That's right.
And I'm sure that was just a great feeling, that touring your album and then COVID hits.
Well, I love actually blaming my complete disinterest in touring and ineptitude at self-promotion on the pandemic. But no, of course, the pandemic was a factor in that.
right?
Yeah.
And Peter, do you hear the monologues in creation? Is there dialogue in the monologue?
I mean, you mean, do I hear them
In creation, as they're
she's
being
Yeah, I
developed?
mean, but it's more like kind of mumbling, though. I don't really hear it outwardly. But they're also, a lot of them are kind of thoughts that reoccur. You know, they're kind of thoughts that she'll give in different ways and at different times. So they're not totally unique to just that set piece. It's kind of a theme she'll be on, you know, just generally in general conversation. So, you know.
Right. So when you're writing a monologue, how much different is it from songwriting? Does it take a longer process? Does it have a different gestation period? Is there a different, mumbling or walking as you're writing? What's the difference, or what maybe some convergence between the two?
Oh, that's a great question. What is the difference? Well, how are they similar? Let me just start there. I'll just sort of think out loud. They're similar in that, you know, with songwriting, there's sometimes that thing of just, this is a quote from someone, maybe Townes Van Sant or something, like catching it in the air, you know what I mean? Like where a melody just sort of occurs to you, or a line just occurs to you. And it sort of seems to happen suddenly, but maybe it's like the culmination of just things you've been mulling over. And the monologues were kind of like that too. You know, there would just be some line like, you know, I've been sober for 13 years and I still can't give anyone a good reason to quit drinking. You know, like that sort of a line will come into my head. Or like, you know, the existential dread biscuit with the fruit center of hope. You know what I mean? It's just something like that. And then as with songwriting, it's like riffing around that. But with the monologue, like instead of, you know, riffing with melody or lyrics, you're just riffing in this character that's starting to like, I don't know, that I just feel like I'm starting to kind of embody a little bit, you know? So I'm just like, oh, mumble, mumble, mumble. And wow, yeah. Mumble, 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 yeah. And yes, I mean, if you've seen me walking down the street in the last like 2 years, I'm totally the girl who's just like, blah, 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 blah. And I used to be able to do it under a mask. And that's where the habit really got traction. And then we stopped wearing masks, and I'm still talking to myself out there. We were talking about this. I don't know if that answers your question about the connection between the processes. Yeah.
How long does it take to? I imagine they're various, but how long does it take to write a monologue? Because you said these are creations that have been coming along for a while.
Yeah.
How long does it take to when do you know it's complete?
Oh man. Well, like, you know, let's say it'd be interesting to imagine if this show was December 15th, would the monologue be different? You know what I mean? It's sort of, I think you're kind of working with the show. I mean, yeah, in this case, I was kind of working toward a particular show. And so I think that kind of dictated things a little bit, particularly with the monologue that I added, you know, which I've been kind of collecting scraps of that, for a long time, you know, and I just like chuck these scraps into a file or into, you know, and so it's like, this project of like, okay, you gotta like find the story here. Right. And if I had, you know, again, if the show was December 15th, I may have found a different story or added to that story, who knows? But in this case, it was like, well, what's the scope that I'm working within? And that's gonna kind of guide the process.
Right,
yeah.
and I read somewhere that you're also a scribbler. You keep notes.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Did you happen to hear the words crime wall as part of that anecdote?
I did. I might have read crime wall as part of this.
I deny any knowledge of a crime wall. I'm a scribbler. Oh, totally. I feel like one of those like birds, you know, like collecting twigs for the nest, you know, with like the paper, like the vital paper. It feels so vital. And then
bowerbird.
5 minutes later, I'm like, what the hell what was I on about? But yeah, I'm a scribbler. Yeah.
So storytelling and the creation of characters also seems to be embedded in your creative process. And I found a short article that you wrote in Canadian Musician, and you remarked, and this is something from the article, reaching beyond what you think you can do vocally, acting a part you don't usually play, can help with noticeably expanding your physical and expressive range. And I thought that remark I was struck by that remark because it suggests there's a theatrical side or an acting side to your singing that pushes you further as a musician, which is to say you're building a character, but you're also pushing yourself as well. Would that be fair to say in terms of how you develop the work?
Yeah, that's a great observation. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm whether it's written storytelling or singing, I really do approach that in terms of characterization. And even with as a vocal guest or accompanist, it's sort of like, well, what character are they trying to play? And then like vocal accompaniment is almost like an extension of empathy in that way, you know? And yeah, I do think that just giving yourself, God, it's so rare that we can just give ourselves permission to, I don't know, just kind of like color outside the lines, you know what I mean, about art and, you know, music, and it's that wonderful place where you can give yourself permission to do that. And I learned that through some, you know, really wonderful collaborations early on, where it's like, yeah, we're all just a bunch of idiots at 2 a.m., right? And it's like, dude, like to this day, my bandmates from Bruce Peninsula, I'll just get some random sound file, and it's like, it's some 2 a.m. screech where we were just like experimenting. And it's not good, it's terrible, but it was a way of just sort of, overcoming that shyness or timidity that we can have even with ourselves, like in our own company. So I love busting out of that and then discovering things, and then it becomes like part of the habit of what you can do. It's not ridiculous anymore. It's like, no, I can go there, whatever, yeah.
Right. And the show opened, Peter, with you coming in and setting the tone and setting the stage for us in character. Yeah. What was that experience like for you to join Misha in the characterization?
I mean, I'm not an actor, so luckily it wasn't too difficult of a role. So I don't know. It was fun to help frame it and maybe just be a little bit of a prop, I guess, for one show. I don't know. I'm more at home, kind of behind the scenes, so it was tough. It was tough.
I think we should really delve into this right here.
Yeah. Barbie's just laugh.
It was fun. I hated every goddamn minute of it.
No, it's good for me. It's just tough.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something more here if I just wait for it.
I was just going to say, like, I know what he's doing.
Actually, in that same article, Misha, you write that by character, and I think it's really helpful to kind of tease this out, this idea of character, because it's so critical to the work that you do. You write, I'm referring to qualities like emotion, intention, mood, mindset. And in this same line of thinking, I'm wondering if you could tease out what goes into making a good, strong character for you.
Oh my gosh. I want to say that like I create these, I like really diligently make these tables where I list like traits, and I have a backstory, and I know everything about the biography of my character. And maybe in the context of, a short story or, written storytelling, that might be more so the case. But this exercise with the monologues, it just felt like an embodied thing. You know what I mean? And I was having this conversation with Allison, a performance artist here in town, and we were just talking about that. Like, I was just, like when I was rehearsing it, the lines would feel so different depending on how I was just sort of taking up the space. And I wasn't really going about it in this analytical way. It was really just like, as I kept rehearsing it and sort of settling into the body of the character, I was finding out more about them, but not in a way that I could sort of say, like, oh, the first character, so what they were back in 1985, and they and their parents and this and that. Like, I think it's just, for me, this, like, it's this constellation of things that I'm pulling from my own direct and indirect experience. But because it's my experience, I can bypass the talking about it part, the commentary part, and just be like, oh yeah, that's going into the quilt of the character. Right. If that makes sense. Does that make any sense at all?
That does make sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are the thoughts that come in to make characters, are they uninvited guests to pull that title? Or are these guests, these thoughts, something you want, or are some of them obtrusive thoughts? You think, oh my goodness, to almost like therapeutically, you're getting them out of your own head by writing them into these characters.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Just working out. Working out different things and, what you think of certain things. And certainly. I mean, my belief about all, I think all storytelling, I think everything is storytelling. Like, everything is storytelling. I think identity is storytelling. I think, when you're sipping your cup of coffee in the morning, like, it's not an exciting story, but it's a narrative that's unfolding. Right. And so I think that art is always some reflection of direct and indirect experience being processed, And sometimes it's more deliberate than others. Like, sometimes you're thinking, holy moly, like, wow, did the shit ever hit the fan? And I'm really sort of intentionally working through this with my art. And then other times it's a little more casual than that. Like, Jean, our conversation yesterday about just that, like, the person seeing someone on the bus, you know what I mean? And the associations that unfold and how those just smaller details get imported into storytelling, along with maybe the bigger themes that, you're working through at a given time. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How do you know which characters are going to fit well or in a pairing with the songs? Is that is it something that you're thinking through, or is that it sits well and that's a good transition? How do you pair them?
Yeah, they just resist. There's a certain point at, like, creating a character where it's like it's working or it's not. So I can't recall specifically, but in the course of building this show, there was a lot of, like, false starts and just like, oh, this isn't working. This isn't, this might be an interesting story, but it's not a story for this. And that's also just kind of intuitive. It's like, oh, why can't I settle into this? Why are the lines never right? Why can't I sort of, like, feel the same way about it from one sort of iteration to the next? And it's because it's really not, it's forced. Right. It doesn't have, the identity of this thing is just not emerging. And so, okay, just put it in the recycle bin, for another project maybe. Yeah, it's a feeling thing. It's like, yeah, it's not working. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Each of the monologues, each of the songs present us a character at a crucial moment of disclosure. Often experiences of personal crisis and trauma, addiction and loss. What is it about these challenging experiences that draws you as a storyteller?
So I think that we're all aware of, like, the point of view that writes off a person who is struggling, right? Like a marginalized person, a person who comes to the table with a criminal record, or that comes to the table with an addiction, or comes to the table with mental illness. And we're all familiar with, like, the response that's really like bristling and dismissive. And but in my experience, like, the people who are navigating that, have in the course of navigating that experience, they bring such a wisdom and a depth and a humor that I think it's a real mistake to underestimate. And so, because, challenge is so universal, I think I enjoy representing that in my work. But what I particularly enjoy representing is not just like the struggle a person is having, but the way, the sort of idiosyncratic wisdom that they bring to their situation, that I think can sometimes surprise the audience in a way that makes us aware of our own prejudices. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm kind of surprised at the way that person is articulating that. Why am I surprised? Well, because you didn't think that someone who was, going to an NA meeting could be that articulate about their experience. But of course, I think that's definitely not the case. And then with respect to this meetings context in particular, it's like there's something about the meeting and the company and the identification among peers that's like more effective than 100 PhD counselors in a room. They have all the expertise in the world, but they just cannot show up to the situation with that qualification of lived experience that is so. Again, it's this like particular kind of depth and wisdom that I really enjoy exploring. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if that answers your question.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it pulls us in as an audience, right? We're all part of the meeting. We're all part of the group.
You're part of the group. That's
so,
right.
And you emerge from the audience, which, one of us that comes to the stage to start us off.
That's right.
You've noted that the songs and the monologues are explorations of the art of coping.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us about the art of coping?
Oh, man, the art of coping. Well, because I think, what sorts of traits do we attribute to artists? Imagination, flexibility, agility, creativity, innovation, an ability to see things differently, ability to come up with a different version of the story. All of that is central to coping. You know what I mean? Like when we are just going through shit in our lives, it requires a tremendous amount of imagination, agility, You know what I mean? To sort of like get unstuck from the situation that you're in, or the thought pattern, or the behavioral pattern, or whatever it might be. And so I do think that coping is inherently artful. Mm-hmm. And I think that when we're coping, we're kind of accessing that innate artist in ourselves to kind of push through and find a way to move again. Yeah.
You come by the connection from your interest in psychology and art quite honestly, and I understand there's some family influence that comes to this, and I think there's some family in the room. When I was sitting waiting, I might have overheard some notes of family in the room.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about how your family informs this particular performance?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, I grew up with like social worker parents, and who had a really like just amazingly relational approach to their work. And so all the things I'm talking about in terms of like not writing a person off and like giving a person a chance to, as my dad would say, like plug into humanity. You know what I mean? You can't just be like, here's an article, here's so many good ideas for you to mull over while you're in recovery, ideas. It's like, no, like actually extending the hand and like giving a person a chance to like participate in a family, to participate in like a social situation, you know what I mean? To actually like feel connected. And so that was something that was really modeled for me, through my parents. And certainly like, I think has, influenced like my worldview, but also a lot of my thematic interests when it comes to storytelling. Yeah.
Right. And I think there's some lyrics in the mix that might also have an influence from...
Yeah, I got my shout out to my dad. So the last song, Misery's Faint Glimmer, is a song by my dad and I. It was his song originally, and then he generously let me rearrange it and add some lyrics. And so it's like a bit of a co-write, DB, between you and I, dare I say. And that's my father, David Bower. He is Canada's finest secret songwriter.
And this show had, Peter, you came from behind the mixing board, as we know, to come to the stage. And this takes you back to your roots. What's it like for you to be coming back as a accompanying guitarist?
Well, you know, I come back, you know, now and again onto the stage, you know, nowadays often with Misha, but not always. And yeah, it's nice to do. I'm just not practiced enough to really feel super comfortable doing it. But it is, because I'm usually just mixing other musicians, and it is a nice experience to get what they experience, and I get more empathy for them by doing this, because I say to all the time, like, I have the easy job, you know, just mixing. I always say the musicians have a harder time than me, because there's often there's a lot of conflict between tech and performers often. So I don't know, it's nice to bridge that gap, I guess. But yeah, I started out like just playing guitar as a young guy in high school, playing for, you know, young women on stage, you know, just backing them. That's how it was, you know.
And he's been playing for young women ever since.
Exactly.
And what's your relationship to these characters now? Because you must, in rehearsals, you get to hear them and you get to live their life when Misha's performing. How does the character, does it come into your mind? Does it resonate?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what I said before. I mean, these will often be themes she has. Misha does a lot of characters, and you know, there's a whole kind of kaleidoscope of these characters' traits in a whole bunch of, you know, interactions I have with Misha. So you never know which Misha you're going to meet.
So breakfast is a different Misha, and then supper is a different Misha.
Yeah. It's always entertaining, you know. I always say Misha's the funniest girl around, you know.
I think we need a camera crew to follow around. So that
ask her to do her Columbo. It's really good. No, don't. That's.
Yeah, I'm a professional. I don't do that shit for free. I mean, please, if you're already all bored of my club. You've all seen it 1,000 times.
I have not. Is anybody else wanting to see?
I'm not doing it.
No, okay, we're.
I'm not doing that.
I don't want to overstep, but you know, we'll see. Maybe it'll merge at some point in time. So I think there's a potential for this show to go on the road. Is that the case? That this could be the first of many?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to, to do the show again. I would love to, maybe take it to some other cities, maybe just like a gentle tour, you know, like a gentle trip to Toronto, a gentle trip to Guelph. You know, I'm not one of these, like, they have a terrific waste management program. Guelph is a great city, okay? I mean that. But yeah, no, I'd love to, in the new year, try to share this show, give it a further reach.
Right.
Yeah.
Questions. Sandra, we might need a mic here. Is there questions? I'd like to bring all of you in now. Yes, we've got a question right over here. I think you're going to have to ask your question into the old-timey mic so that we can hear your voice recorded into posterity.
Okay, I can do that. Okay, my question is not fully thought out yet, but we'll get there. In earlier social media days, you've been posting characters on Instagram. And I wonder if that's maybe kind of like a sketchbook of this process in this development.
Oh, that's such a, God, I mean, maybe, I don't know. That's such an interesting observation. You know, it might be kind of an example of like a seed of a character, but of course, when it's just the video, that's the character and that's kind of it. But yeah, in terms of just like the impulsiveness of, you know, just having a moment, it's like, oh, this is a bit funny right now, a little bit, you know what I mean? But I mean, often, and actually it even kind of ties to coping, because I would say that 90% of the time, the reason I make one of those stupid videos is just to give myself a bit of a morale boost, you know what I mean? I'm just like, well, no one else is gonna make you feel better right now. You're home alone, it's 4:00 in the morning. Hit the Insta streets. But yeah, that's sort of, I think, of an example of, someone maybe knowing you a little better than you know yourself in a bit. Because I think there's a connection there for sure. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions for? Oh, I see it at the back. And I think you might run out of wire here in a sec, so you might have to shut its limit.
So is it easier or more fun for you to do the thought out random characters that you do whenever you visit me or any of your other family, or to do the ones you thought out for a long time?
Is this an intervention?
This is a support group here for characters.
That's a great question. And I think it's two different things. Yeah, I think that, just the spontaneous humor and characterization that happens in conversation, maybe sometimes there's that like greedy little writer part of me. It's like, oh, I should write this down. I'm going to put this in a bottle for later. But then it's like, it's also nice that it's just part of relationships and relating to other people. It's just this like fun dynamic that you have with people that you love. So that's one thing. But and then making characters kind of off in your own world is another thing that's fun as well. But that's an insightful question, because sometimes I think something that I'm still searching for how to do is like import a little more of that spontaneity into the more, deliberate, intentional writing. And that's, something that I think I'm always endeavoring to do, and take the advice of artists who talk about like, just play. And I'm like, I'm trying, but I'm like a serious adult and I don't know how anymore. So I'm trying to import more of that, spontaneity and conversation into the more process-driven stuff.
You serious? I don't think that goes in the same sentence.
My niece, Haley Bower, everyone. My very insightful, observant niece.
Speaking of Columba, how good is it, the impersonation? Okay, all right.
It's going to come at some point.
First, Peter, partner in crime. Did you audition for Ryan Gosling's and Ken and Barbie? Because I think you got what it takes.
Thanks, man.
No, but I thought it was a lovely, your guitar interludes worked fantastic with the set piece of the monologues. Do I even have a question? Oh, no, I was just thinking, these monologues could be presented, I'm ready for another hour of them, more characters. I'd encourage you to keep going. And I was just thinking, what is these monologues reminding me of? And there was a famous guy, American actor Eric Bogosian, who did a set of monologues back in the late 80s.
Who's the actor?
Eric Bogosian. Oliver Stone picked him up for the film Talk Radio. Okay. And he's been in other. But he actually became famous, I guess, in Broadway with doing a very similar thing. The book, they're gathered in a book called Drinking in America.
Oh, cool.
One of my favorite things in my life. I can recite the Christmas tree one, where our dad's channeling, he's got a kid living on the couch, in the basement and playing computer games.
Right, okay.
There's something there, but he's got a whole male perspective on his monologues, but I could see a book out of this too, because the Eric Bogosian pieces stand alone just reading them. Oh, wow. You'll see, yeah.
Thank you for that.
I think it just crossed my mind. And, what do you imagine? I got a trench coat. Ma'am, one more question. Yeah. One more, just the book that didn't sell. How bad is it? Can you tell us about the book? Just briefly, yeah.
The book I'm working on?
Well, no, the one that's here.
Oh, the book. Oh, yeah. So, it's a collection of, I think it's 8 or 9 short stories, all first person. In fact, the monologue about the person who's got to tell Nancy that he blew the money at a poker game is actually adapted from one of the stories in there called Whole Lotta Nothing. And it's a longer version of that story. But yeah, like a cast of characters. I think one review even said like it kind of feels like the disclosures of some regulars that you would meet at your local bar. So it's kind of that feel, you know. Each story is like, yeah, I'm just a person in a crucial moment here, you know, like a crucial to me, meaningless to the universe. You know what I mean? But it's crucial in my crucial. Yeah. So.
Oh, just one more question.
I know, right?
That just
It's gonna become a
now I'm going to go
Columbo.
home and watch. Yeah, Columbo. One of my favorite scenes in a movie is with him in Wings of Desire. One of the best movies of all time, in my opinion. And he has
You're
a
a
he has a
kindred
role
spirit,
in there.
sir.
He
You're a
has a
kindred
role, and he
spirit.
gives a monologue. He gives a little monologue.
Peter Falk is amazing.
Do you know Wings of Desire?
It's been a long time.
I can recite you what Peter Falk says. I have it memorized. No, Bruce Peninsula.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any reason for that? Is there a theme there?
Oh, to the name?
For the time, yeah.
Oh,
Is that a favorite place of yours?
I guess. Long story short, yeah, favorite place with a lot of history for the folks who kind of founded that band initially. Yeah.
You kind of stumbled into a question about the upcoming book. You said, "Oh, the book that I'm writing now." So
right.
expand
Because
upon
we
the
were
book that
chatting earlier,
you're
yeah.
writing now. Could we hear a little bit?
Yeah, I'm working on a novel at a glacial pace. It's going to be done in 50,000 years. No, it's a book set in London. And it is about a guy who has just been released from prison. He's living in a halfway house in the 90s. And he is experiencing that thing that I think a lot of people who have been incarcerated experience upon release or upon trying to integrate into community life, which is sort of that like, forces of like rejection and recruitment. You know, you've got people on the illegal side and people on the legal side who are all trying to like compete for claim on your soul. And so it's just the story of that person and, which way is he going to go, right?
Ooh, stay tuned.
Yeah, right. Stay tuned when you're 100 years old and we're having the book launch here, okay? I want to see all of you here.
Sorry. So you said a little bit earlier that this show sort of started, I guess, with Richard Gracious and was kind of, so how does it become a live show? So the performance today could have also been a book, could have also been an album, could have been a film. Like you kind of move through all of these different stories and like ways of storytelling that kind of don't necessarily fit a specific mold. How is the decision made that this is going to be a live show because it needs to be a live show?
That's a great question. I think a couple things come to mind. And the first one is that there's something about it being situated in the support group meeting that automatically just makes me want it to be live and to want that the audience to play the peers. You know what I mean? And there might be varying degrees to which like you guys feel that as audience members, like, oh, it's kind of like we were at the meeting. It's just sort of like part of the ecosystem that I think makes the piece work live really well. But also, I had that thought. I was like, well, maybe these could be like standalone written pieces. And I like look at them transcribed and I have a really hard time arriving at like a final draft because there's just something about it being spoken that maybe I'm just like so committed to. Maybe it's that I'm not like overcoming the habit of what it's been up to that point. But I just look at it and I think like, is that something a person would want to read? I'm not sure. And it just hasn't felt like it's worked for me on the page. So, if I was going to go there as, Vincent suggested, like, oh, there could be a book out of this. I think I would have to get some input, some like editorial input just to sort of see like, does this work on the page? Because right now I'm not sure it does. I don't know. Yeah. Well, thank you. Maybe you can be my editorial, my flattering editor. You're like, it's amazing. I'm like, oh, let's do it.
Hi, Misha.
Hey, how are ya?
That walk we had the other night was really lovely.
Right.
We were able to talk a lot for what I just witnessed.
I hope you don't mind me bringing in the talking to myself from our conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I'm just going to show up fully too as like an audience member coming in tonight. So like my whole heart is in Palestine right now. We're witnessing a genocide. So like your story of like the gambler, like tomorrow's Black Friday, we should all be boycotting, you know? And like if you're not doing it for the pot, what are you doing it for?
Right.
And all the mothers that just lost all their children.
Yeah.
That's the framework in which I experienced your show tonight. And I appreciate that. I wonder about self-awareness, because there's something, I think you are very self-aware, and I think I heard you say that tonight, that you wanted your characters to show I'm allowed to be self-aware in my position, like where I am, what I'm experiencing doesn't negate my ability to know and see myself, but there almost seems to be like you should apologize for that. You should apologize for the level of self-awareness you have, or like mask it with humor. Like you can't just be a straight shooter with how well you know yourself. So I wondered about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, a great observation, I should say. And I think that I think humor can emerge as a really like unexpected but natural part of coping with difficult experience. And I think that there were some moments in my characterization where I am using humor to reflect what I think is a trait that coexists with being vulnerable, which is very difficult, which is a tendency to armor oneself a little bit. You know what I mean? To sort of catch oneself maybe getting a bit too deep, maybe catch oneself in the company of others being vulnerable and to suddenly clench up, you know? And because I think that that's part of the experience, you know, of confiding in others. And, you know, especially when you first show up to that process and you're like, you know, well, I'm at the meeting and though I'm just doing the, you know, we're sort of like, there's a tension between wanting to just lay it out and show up honestly and to withhold and protect and armor. And so that's something that I'm exploring in those characterizations as well. But that's a great observation, you know, in terms of like, what is humor doing there? Is humor ass covering? Is humor skirting, like getting to the heart of the matter? Is it self-protective? I think it's all of the above. And I hope it's intentional, but it's certainly possible that my own psychological frailties are reflected in that. Because I'm also, at the end of the day, like a person who's on the stage being vulnerable as an artist too. And so I'm kind of susceptible to all those things too, right? And I'm sure that that's part of, maybe, you know, it could be part of what influences, like, I'm gonna just trail off there. I'm gonna go for a punchline there. Totally possible too. You know what I mean? So hope I answered your question. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
It's a would you rather question. So, would you rather never write any new material again, or would you rather give up performing live forever?
Music or writing?
Would I rather never write any new material ever again? Or would I rather give up performing live forever? I'd rather give up performing live forever. Yeah, because I think writing, do you want me to elaborate, or are you just like, that's all I want, that's it, that's all you get? Yeah, if I wasn't like writing, you're making me think, you know. Yeah, I don't know what I would do if I wasn't writing. You know, I have so much writing that like no one will ever read, no one will ever see. You know, I've been working on this novel. The reason I say like glacial pace, 1,000 years, is because the novel's like been in my life forever. And part of it is like, oh, you want to make this thing and share it. But part of it is just like this inclination to narrate experience in this particular way through writing. And I just don't know, like, yeah, what I would do without that or who I would be without that. So, yeah, it's a profound question. Yeah. But then you'd miss out on me performing live. Oh, thank God it's just hypothetical. Yeah, that's right. Does Instagram count as live?
It's okay.
Thank you both for being so entertaining. It's nice to see Pete without just the glow of the soundboard. I know everybody else wants to know the answer to this question. What hand did you fold, for crying out loud? You must know which hand. You've thought it through.
What hand did I fold?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I don't know.
You don't know?
It was a flush.
You sounded like a...
It's a flush.
Do both of you play poker?
Flush makes sense.
You sounded like a poker player. You're
Well,
very, very good at it.
Thank you. That's very flattering.
Yeah, there's a life in just going around the country and acting like a poker player.
Yeah, that one in particular is I was not the poker player in that
I know.
story. Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I just thought you might have...
No, I
thought it
didn't.
through.
I
Okay.
didn't know the hand. Let me put it this way: I didn't ask. Yeah, let me put it that way. Yeah.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Sassy!
Hello.
Hi. I don't know which way to talk into this. I've been thinking about this. I'm like, do I say this? Do I not? This was like such a great way of like pulling us right in. I totally forgot where I was. But also the way that you approached, there is darkness definitely in every character. And you made it accessible, and jumping on what Allison said about the humor, I think for me, the humor was part of making that darkness accessible. For me, one of my pet peeves, especially I think after a pandemic and being isolated from everybody, is that you start to dislike the masks that everybody puts on in real life. And so this was like such a great way of communicating and performing that darkness that everyone has, but then the humor brings you back to like, wait a second, I'm actually not all insanity. I am human. Right. So I just want to say that I really appreciated that. And for me, the content of your words filled up a space, but then the music filled up, like it gave it such depth with feeling that indescribable emotion that goes with those words.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really, thank you.
One last one? Yeah? Pressure's on, last one.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to take up space with someone I'm friends with.
No, I think
No,
you're
no.
the, I think,
Yep.
yeah, you can.
Yeah, sorry, because I did want to talk about the music too. Because I found myself closing my eyes. I hope that's okay. But it became an embodied experience then with my eyes shut that I could just, so Pete, like you were really very much a part of that. And like, anyway, so I like you're very well communicating that of like that your whole process, and it came across as an embodied experience then as well too. And yeah, I just wanted to tell you that.
Thank you so much.
You're the boss.
Oh, very quick to follow up to what the fellow's asking about, that whole wonderfully, I know someone with gambling addictions. As the famous Kenny Rogers once put in his song, The Gambler, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. And I think you made us think with that piece. Very good.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you on behalf of Pete and I just want to say thank you, Sandra and Sarah and Guillermo and Bill and Tap and Josh and all of you for coming and for all of the support and encouragement with this show. It's just meant so much to bring it here. And I'm just so grateful. So really thank you all for everything, big time. Yeah.
A quick reminder that Misha has merch for purchase. There's some Bruce Peninsula vinyl records. There is the solo album vinyl records, and there are copies of music for uninvited guests. Thank you so much, Peter and Misha. This was a terrific evening. And everybody who's a first-timer for Unscripted, now you know what it's about. You're going to come back for all the Unscripted. Thanks, everybody. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you.